Welcome to the Creative Content Club podcast with me, Naomi Rose. If you are a business owner who wants to consistently create content that connects and converts into clients, this is the podcast for you. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Let's get right into it. Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are all well and welcome to another episode of the Creative Content Club podcast with me, Naomi Rhodes. I love all things to do with content as well as marketing, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about, share some of my knowledge, some of my wisdom, some of my experience of what I've learned through the years of working in marketing and how you can really use your content to not only showcase who you are as a person, who you are as an expert, but to help you build connections with people you actually want to work with. Make sure your content speaks to your ideal clients, the people you actually want to buy from you, and to make sure that you feel good about putting content out there. Because I know how many people feel stressed about it. I know it feels like a lot. And this is what today's podcast episode is all about. It's about 3 quick checks to see if your content is actually working. Because so many people, particularly on social media, say to me, I feel like I'm doing it and I don't really feel like it's getting me any results. I'm putting my stuff out there and I'm not seeing anyone like it. I'm shouting into the void. The people that I'm trying to attract isn't really seeing it, but all the people who are already seeing it, like my mum, are just liking it. That's what I want to talk to you about today, to check what is and isn't working. Because if we don't know what's going on, how can we know how to correct it and move forward? We're just putting stuff out there and hoping and posting, which doesn't really get us anywhere. And that just makes us busy. It doesn't get us results. If you feel like you're flinging content, whether that be a blog, whether it's an email, whether it's just getting something out there to try and attract your audience, a social media post. Social media is the biggest one that people find this with, right? That feels like you're shouting into the void a lot of the time. But this is what you can actually do to really elevate your content, see what is working, what isn't working, and work out what to do next, right? This is my method I use. I use this all the time. It's called the API method. It's about audit, plan, and implement. This stage is about the audit. I do this on my own business as well as my client's business because it works. It's simple, it's effective. So let's start with where you are now. First of these quick checks, to find out if your content is actually working. Are people actually engaging or are they just scrolling past? What do you look for when you are looking to find out whether people are actually either opening emails, viewing websites, social media engagement? What is it that you're looking for? I'm not just saying about social media here because it goes beyond that. We know it goes beyond that. But engagement is more than vanity metrics. It's a proof of whether your content is actually working. But how do we know if it's working? What numbers are we actually looking at? So let's have a think about that. Let's talk about that right now. So sometimes you think, oh, that's got a few likes, but actually sometimes that's not always the post that does the best. So what we want to look for here when we're looking to find out if people are engaging and if they're just scrolling past. So let's start with website. If you do not look at your website stats, I highly encourage you to do so because SEO, search engine optimization, which sounds like a real big jargony thing, is actually not as hard as you think. What it does is it helps Google give your content to the right people when they're searching for it. And we miss this opportunity so much because we don't know how to do it. It feels too heavy. But you start by having a look at what's going on with your website. How many people are actually viewing it? How many people are actually looking at it? And you can get all of this through Google Analytics. It's totally free to input into your website. You can plug it in the back, which is a way to really see what's going on. And it gives you there is so much information in there. If you're not tech savvy, you can get quite lost in there. But what we want to look at is just understand what people are looking at, where they are looking and what they are engaging with the most. Your website, just because it's there, doesn't mean it's going to get seen. So we need to make sure it does get that visibility. But if we know what those numbers are and the pages, if you're not using like a WordPress site or you're using a sales page or whatever, look at the numbers on those pages if you're doing a launch and thing and see what's going on, see what's occurring. Because when we've got data, we've got information. And when we have information, we can then create a solid plan based on evidence, which is super important. So have a look, see what's going on with your website. If you're not getting any views and you've been telling people to go and visit it or telling people to go and download a free guide that you've got and you're not getting anyone seeing it, we know there's a problem somewhere. So once you've got evidence, this isn't about looking at your failures. It's about understanding what's going on. And no information, no numbers, not seeing anything is information we can work with. We can start to go, okay, right, there's a gap here. What am I doing wrong? So that will be where you could start with your website. With your email, it's looking at open rates, right? You probably won't get many people responding to your emails directly. People don't naturally reply back to emails on a newsletter. But what we want to look at are things like the open rates, how many people are actually opening it, and whether people are clicking through. Most email providers give you this information. You can actually see who's opening it. When we start to see, again, which emails are being the most opened, we can start to drill down on what's working and what isn't. If that kind of number, and let's just talk a little bit about what a good engagement rate is. So there's lots of different industry standards for this, right? There is no one set rule. So you need to benchmark it against yourself. So we're looking at around the 25 to 30% mark is a good open rate. 30%, yes, it's not that high. Click-through rates as well aren't usually that high either. You're talking probably absolute maximum, sometimes 10%, but more on average between that kind of 3 and 5% if it's a really good engaging email. So you're talking really quite small amount of numbers, and not everybody looks at your emails. So it's really understanding who's opening them, but getting an idea of what's engaging. And again, if you're sending out emails and no one's opening them, or you're getting a really low number of people opening them, we've got information again. So it either means that you've got the wrong audience or your emails aren't the right kind of content. Now we get to the big one, the social media side of it. And there is so much stats on all of the platforms that you can get for free. Which ones do you need to look at? I am less fussed about followers. Followers is definitely a vanity metric. It's great to have lots and lots of followers. And obviously in the world of Instagram now, it's pushing you to have over 1,000 followers before you can go live. But actually what we want to look at is engagement and the reach, because those tell us how many people are looking at our content, how many people are engaging. It's better to have 100 followers that are all really engaged than 10,000 followers where you've got 100 engaged. When you actually have a look at some of the, I always do this, right? Go and have a look at some of the bigger accounts across any of the social media. So some of the bigger people you follow, and just go and scroll through their content just to see how many likes, how many comments compared to the number of followers they are getting. Now, I will caveat this because sometimes it is about views. We want to look at views as well when it comes to content on social media. There are people that will, and this depends totally on your ideal clients and your audience. There are people that will look and not engage, but it doesn't mean they're not reading. So you might be one of those people that looks and observes, but doesn't actually take any action on social media. You might be a lurker. Doesn't mean you're not reading. Doesn't mean you're not telling your friends about it. So sometimes we have to also look at the views of our content as well and see who's engaging, even if they're not liking. So that's why it's always good to look at what they call the reach and impression. So that's your first check. So we have a quick look, website, email, and social. See what's going on right now. See what is and isn't working. Look at the content that seems to have done the best and the content that's not done the best, and see what we need to change. That's where we start. Your second quick check is the content that you're putting out there actually shifting people from being followers, just kind of nice to hang around, taking in all the free information, but are they actually taking the next step? And this is where we really have to look at how many people are downloading a free guide, how many people are coming to masterclasses, how many people are joining your email list, and how many people are viewing your sales pages. That's what we need to know here. It's understanding whether the content is really driving people to take the next call to action that you're asking them. And you can sometimes do this in really simple ways, and it really does depend on the platform you are promoting. And again, this isn't just solely for social media purposes. It could be, like I say, emails, like click-through rates in emails, seeing if people are actually downloading a free guide. Are they booking a free call with you? What is the action that you're asking them to do? Are they commenting on a post? I often do this on Instagram, like say, comment content if you want to download my free guide or take my quiz, because it's an easy call to action. People don't have to go and find a link somewhere and come off their doom scroll. It's thinking about what is going to make people take action the easiest. What is it that's going to make people join up? And it could be that it's not always about having people read it and take action there. It might be about seeing who is actually looking. So you can see who's liked or engaged with a post on LinkedIn, for instance, and actually dropping them a message, helping them with that call to action. But whenever you put out a bit of content, it needs a next step. It needs something that you want people to do. People won't figure that out for themselves. There is too much information out there. There is too much information they're scrolling through. They want it to be easy, and they need it to speak directly to them in the language that they use. It's not about what you want to say. It's about how they want to hear it. And it's really getting into the crux of the words. I was doing this the other day in the content course. Actually, it's a really good example of this, where I went back through and looked at some of my content to see what I thought I could do better next time. And I put something out about branding, which I really understand a lot about branding. Not a lot of people really understand the depths of branding and how important it is. And I don't mean that in a because people are stupid way. It's just that it's such a vague word. It's like the word marketing. It's vague. Content is also vague. So when I start to talk about stuff like, instead of talking about branding, are your colours attracting the right person? Are the colours you're using attracting your ideal clients? It suddenly starts to put it into context of what we're talking about. It suddenly starts to think about the actions and behaviours, all the symptoms that people are talking about. And again, that will help. So think about those call to actions. And if those call to actions aren't working, because people don't always want to give over, say, for instance, their email address. Not everyone wants to book a call with you straight away. Think about, what is it that I can give people that's an easier or lower barrier to entry, like joining a masterclass or something that feels much more value, something that will work for your audience. The final quick check is about consistency. Consistency, or is it confusing? So this is talking about and thinking about, you might be being consistent, right? I see a lot of people say to me, I'm showing up, I'm doing the things, I am posting all the time. But what I want you to do is go and have a look at your emails. If you have a blog, have a look at your blog, have a look at your social media, and just see what you're posting is actually consistent or confusing. Even if you're doing it all, like showing up regularly. What I mean by that is repetition builds reputation. I don't know how many times I've said podcast, or not podcast. Sorry, I'm doing a podcast. How many times I say content every single day? I say it hundreds. It's what I do. I talk about content. I talk about clients, I talk about sales, I talk about money. These are all things I talk about all the time. And I talk about them in slightly different ways, but in a way that isn't confusing. So when we are thinking about the volume of content we need, we are not talking about multiple subjects. We are talking about banging that same old drum over and over again, because that builds trust. People like familiarity. We love routine. I don't go into a coffee shop and order a different coffee every single time. And my customers, when I had the coffee shop, would be furious if they got a different coffee every single time. They want the same thing. People are creatures of habit. If your content is consistent and has similar messaging all the time that just says it in slightly different ways, you are more likely to build trust. So what I want you to do is have a look and work out, if you were looking from the outside in, are you taking people all over the place? Does your content feel like it's part of the same person, part of the same topic? Have you talked about the same thing? We feel like we need to change the subject because it gets boring. The only person it's boring for is us. And that's exactly what it should feel like. The consistency is about endurance. It's about being repetitive. It's about really telling that story in the same way across different channels, slightly differently every single time. I always use this example of when I had the cafe. I tell the story of why I opened it several times a day, because that's what brought people in. And just remember, just because you've got followers on your account or people on your email that have been before, one, they might never have seen that content. Don't ever assume that anyone's seen everything you've posted. And two, they won't mind if they see it again. They will not mind in the slightest. New people don't necessarily know you. So we have to keep saying the same thing over again so they get to know who you are. And we want reliability when we're looking to work with someone. We want to see that consistency. We want to see that people really have a clear idea of what they're doing. I'm going to leave you with 3 quick content checklist here, a 3-point thing. So engagement check. This is something you can action right now. Open your last 5 emails or posts. Did you get any comments, likes, shares, replies, opens? If they aren't really getting that, then something isn't connecting with your content. So there, we need to find out whether there's something not quite working there. It's either your content or your audience, one of the two. And you will probably have a bit of a gut of which one it is. The second one is the action check. So again, look at your last 3 posts, blogs, or emails where you've added a call to action, or you haven't added a call to action. Let's check whether you have or you haven't. If you did anyone actually click, download, sign up, or send an inquiry? If your answer is no, then there is something not quite inspiring people to take that action there, or the call to action isn't that clear, or people aren't seeing it because they're not reading it. And then the final thing, the consistency check, what I've just been talking about. Go to your Instagram, your blog, your newsletter, have a look at them all together. Do they all feel like they reflect each other? Do they feel consistent? If one person lands in one place, do they feel like they are seeing you the same way as if they land in another place? And ultimately, when you read through your content, does it feel clear? Is it really obvious as to what you do, or are you taking them on many different content topics? Is it really talking about multiple things? So do these 3 things. And what I would really love is to tell me what you found out. Drop me a message. Come and drop me a DM on Instagram or LinkedIn. My details are in the show notes. Or just fling me an email, pop me an email and let me know what you've learned. I'll be really interested to see what you find out from this one. Okay, I hope that's been helpful. It has been a little bit techie. I am sorry about that, but this is such useful stuff to know. Knowing your numbers will help you move forward to your goals, and that's exactly what we want to do here. So thank you very much for listening, and I'll be back again next week with another episode of the Creative Content Club. Thank you for listening to the Creative Content Club podcast with me, Naomi Rose. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this podcast a review. If this episode gave you clarity or sparked a new idea, I'd really appreciate it if you could share it with someone else who would find it useful. If you haven't already, give me a follow on Instagram and come and connect with me on LinkedIn. And finally, don't forget to check out the show notes to take my quiz to find out exactly why your content isn't converting into clients. Thanks again for listening, and I'll be back again next week with another episode.